A severe weather outbreak is going to be taking place over this weekend, and a massive Arctic blast is going to be possible early next week. So in this video, we're going to be breaking that all down for you guys in areas all across the country. So let's go ahead and get right into it, starting off with the Storm Prediction Center outlook for today, where we have a marginal risk of severe weather for portions of the Florida Panhandle, the Big Bend, southwestern Georgia, and extreme southeastern Alabama here. Tornado risk for today. If you're in that green area, you have a 2% chance to see a tornado in your town. Now, I do think that there is a very, very small chance of an isolated tornado over a localized area here, specifically somewhere in southwest Georgia or the Florida Panhandle, and that would be somewhere between 1 and 4 p.m. I think there's a very low chance of a tornado overall, though, today, but just be on the lookout just in case. Have a tornado action plan in place. Damaging wind threat for today, if you're in that brown area, you have a 5% chance to see wind gusts of 60 miles an hour or higher in your town. I really don't think damaging winds are going to be a massive thing today either. I think it's just going to be one or two storms maybe that do become severe because of wind. And then hail threat, we don't have one for today. So moving on to tomorrow here, we have a marginal risk of severe weather for portions of central Florida. Tornado risk for tomorrow, if you're in that green area, you're going to have a 2% chance to see a tornado in your town. Now, this includes everywhere from Tampa over to Orlando and Melbourne. Now, I don't think that the tornado risk is going to be anything crazy again tomorrow, but I once again think that there is a very, very small time frame for the potential of a brief tornado over a localized region, and we'll kind of break down where that is later on in this forecast. So, damaging wind threat for tomorrow, if you're in that brown area, you have a 5% chance to see wind gusts of 60 miles an hour or higher in your town. I would not be surprised to see some isolated, though scattered, damaging winds tomorrow across sections of central, but also northern Florida as well still, okay? So hail threat for tomorrow, we don't have one. So let's go and move on to what some of the models are showing here for this outbreak. So this is the NAM model here. This is right now, we see we've got some leftover thunderstorms from last night across sections of the Florida Panhandle and southern Georgia there, and these are going to sweep their way eastward here, and by 1 p.m., we could be dealing with some supercells across sections of the Florida Panhandle and far southwest Georgia. Now, originally these were looking like they were going to be more discrete cells. Now they're more widely scattered more than anything else, but I still do think that a isolated tornado cannot be ruled out if any one of these cells does become discrete enough and manages to take advantage of this environment properly. Now, if we take a look into the evening time hours here today, we can see that a lot of those start to sweep offshore, but we could see a few more thunderstorms enter portions of northern and central Florida there overnight. And by the time that we get to tomorrow, we are still seeing some of those thunderstorms there in portions of the peninsula, so that'll be something to look out for. Now, taking a look at the Cape and wind crossovers here for this event, we can see we've got a small area there where we do have a little bit of Cape and wind shear mixing over, once again, across sections of the Florida Panhandle, and we do have quite a bit of that, actually, in portions of Alabama, but there's not going to be any storms in Alabama there, so it's not really going to matter too much. Again, really just that localized corridor there from sections of the Florida Panhandle into southwestern Georgia is going to be the only shot that we have at seeing a tornado today, and then tomorrow morning, we've still got some of that Cape and wind shear left over in portions of the Florida Peninsula, even going all the way down to areas like Miami, so we'll watch out for that. Now, the HRRR model has quite a different story, actually, that it's telling with this event. It shows that these cells are going to be more discrete, and if this were going to happen, okay, maybe the tornado threat gets up there a little bit. Again, maybe we have that greater chance of seeing an isolated tornado or two. We are seeing some supercells there in parts of the Florida Panhandle and southwest Georgia still, according to the HRRR model, but also some storms moving their way into parts of central Georgia. Now, those would not be anything major, probably just some gusty winds. But it is worth noting that the HRRR has this being a bit more of a widespread, strong thunderstorm event. Anywhere from South Carolina back into Florida has that potential for some strong storms, according to the HRRR. And again, it's really overnight that damaging wind threat there starts to kick up for parts of northern Florida. So, taking a look at the Cape and wind crossovers, according to the HRRR, we see we've got a little bit more of that over sections of southeast Alabama and southwest Georgia once again. Again, I really think the hot spot here, if we have any chance at all of seeing a tornado today, is going to be somewhere in southwest Georgia or the Florida Panhandle. Overall, nothing too crazy, though, obviously. So now the RGEM model here. This is a model that not a lot of people like to take a look at, but I actually do think that it does a good job for short-term and long-term forecasting. If we take a look at it here, we can see that it has most of these being weaker thunderstorms here until we get into the evening time hours. It says we won't really see much of this activity until, say, 6, 7, 8 p.m. even, and even then it doesn't have these thunderstorms becoming anything too intense until early tomorrow morning there for sections of northern and central Florida. So, again, we'll kind of see what happens there with that GFS model, we're going to take a look at the temperatures here, the temperature anomalies anyways, across the United States here, because as we mentioned in the beginning of this video, a massive Arctic blast is going to make its way through sections of the plains and the Ohio Valley, so really just the entirety of the country in general. So if we take a look at this here, we can see it's already starting to kick off here in portions of Montana and North Dakota. Some extreme cold warnings have been issued, but this blast is only going to continue further into the United States here, bringing the coldest air that we are going to likely see in all of 2025 to pretty much the entirety of the country here. Again, everywhere from Washington back down into Florida could have that potential to see below average temperatures there early next week. This is Monday. Talking about well below average temperatures pretty much across the entirety of the country. Maybe a few sections out there in the western United States make their way to average and slightly above average temperatures, but really, we are going to be dealing with that bitter cold here for a while, and then late next week, it shows maybe some warmer temperatures entering the picture there for sections of the Ohio Valley once again, but it's a little too far out to talk specifics with that. So, finally, let's go ahead and take a look at the watches, warnings, and advisories currently in effect for sections of the United States. Again, extreme cold warnings in place there for sections of Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, and Montana. A lot of people don't know what an extreme cold warning is because it's a relatively new thing that the National Weather Service is doing. Basically, those are put in place whenever the National Weather Service thinks that extremely dangerous and hazardous conditions are going to be in place due to cold air over a certain region of the United States. In this case, we've got temperatures that are going to be 40 to 50 degrees below zero in terms of wind chills across sections of the upper Midwest. So please, if you have to go outside, please make sure that time is limited and that you are bundled up well, because frostbite can develop on exposed skin in as little as 5 to 10 minutes whenever you start talking about temperatures that cold. So please be safe out there. I know it's cold all the time. You think you get this every day, but this is really going to be quite a rare Arctic blast. Now, cold weather advisories remain in effect as well in those light blue boxes. That goes everywhere from sections of the Midwest all the way back down through portions of Dixie Alley. Now, their standards down there are obviously way less intense for those cold weather advisories than up in the upper Midwest, so temperatures obviously aren't going to be nearly that cold down there in parts of Texas and Louisiana, but you could still see some potentially dangerously cold wind chills. Those kind of tealish boxes there, those are extreme cold watches, so we think that we will see some extreme cold there over sections of the Ohio Valley, but it won't be until within a few days of now, right? So that is going to be it for today. Before we wrap up, I would like to thank all of our channel members here. Thank you guys for being awesome. You guys are soon going to get access to more exclusive videos, stuff like that. I haven't done too many so far, but I am planning on doing that more in the future. The weather has just been so active lately. So again, thank you to all those. If you want to become a member by clicking that link down in the description. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.